I want to take a look at this map right here because this is important. All of these countries that are in blue that you see are NATO states. Now, this is as they refer to them. They refer to them as. Now, for those that may not know what NATO is, it's the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Now, if you look closely, you'll see that NATO has Russia pretty much surrounded, right? And that only buffer between Russia and NATO are Belarus and Ukraine, which is highlighted in the kind of greenish areas, right? You see Belarus just north of Ukraine. Now, for any of you, this would be a problem. If you really sat back and thought about being a leader of a country, this would be a problem because the only buffers that you see is Belarus and Ukraine, as mentioned. Now, this is a threat. Now, if you look even closer, you'll see that NATO states combined are not only surrounding Russia, but a lot bigger, making it more powerful, more of a threat, especially with the West being involved as well. And when I say the West, I'm speaking of America and Canada. And you have to keep in mind that Canada is one of the founding members of NATO's alliance. So you have to keep that in mind. If you didn't know, now you do. Now, there are also a few countries close by that are wanting to join NATO, and they're flirting around a little bit. And Ukraine is one. Ukraine is one of them. And then there's Georgia, which is just a little southeast. There's southeast. There's Georgia. You have Macedonia, Croatia, and Albania. Now, under the Obama administration back in 2008, NATO held their summit meeting. And I don't know if you guys even pay attention to this type of stuff, but these meetings are important and they are airing these things. You just have to find it. And if you can't find it, at least look at some world news and try to get updates on it. Now, a few of the countries that I just mentioned were invited to join the alliance, being NATO. Now, Vladimir Putin, felt back then that NATO was strategically setting things up to possibly destroy or control Russia. And again, if you look at the map, you can see that he's pretty much surrounded on this side of the border. And if you look at Russia's map, you'll see that on the other side, on the eastern side, he's surrounded by, of course, the U.S., Canada, and then we can't forget Mexico. Okay? You can't forget that. So he's pretty much surrounded. Now, he asks that they not do that. He doesn't want anybody surrounding him. It's pretty much he wants some space. Some space. He's feeling some kind of way. Now, he asked that they not do that during the, was it the G20 summit, I believe? Now, unfortunately, NATO, they didn't listen. Now, Putin's first move was to go down into Georgia and crush them. This happened back then, you know what I mean, 2008 or so. Now, Georgia still remains their own independent country, and they're not a part of NATO just yet. But they was invaded by Russia, and they was hit hard, okay? Now, moving on, February through March, I'm going to say February and March of 2014, during Obama's second term, NATO ignored Putin's request. Again, they did. So you got to remember, this was back in February and March of 2014. And this was during Obama's second term. And I want you to go and Google it so you can actually see it. You'll be able to find out the information. There are hundreds of articles there. Now, NATO, all of these countries, they ignored Putin's request to just back off a little bit. Now, because of that, Putin sent his crew down into Crimea and destroyed them too. So now you have two invasions that led to war, okay? Now, these were warnings to NATO to simply just back away. But NATO was not listening. Now, just looking into these events of the past, I don't personally think that any of you who understands the art of war or most importantly, keeping your people safe, would you not understand what Vladimir Putin is actually doing? Now, I think you guys really need to look at this, because I know what media does. They tell you that, these other world leaders are demons and, they're devilish. But I don't personally think that the people that I'm speaking to right now, I don't personally think that if any of you who understands the art of war, again, most importantly, keeping your people safe, would not understand what Vladimir Putin is doing. See, many countries and their leaders, they just want to be left alone. That's it. And Russia is one of them. Now, the American media, the American media is one of the most dangerous, countries there is. They speak on behalf of one of the most dangerous countries there is. America is a bully. You know what I mean? We're large, and our military is superior, to say the least.